What's up, World Wide Web? This is the Longhorn Confidential for November 1st. I'm Danny Davis, the Austin American-Statesman, as always, joined by Cedric Golden, Kirk Bohls. Guys, we had a week off, but it's time to talk Longhorn football. But actually, let's talk about that by week before we get started. You both were on the road. Kirk, we'll start with you because that's Austin FC. They lost. We don't have to care about them anymore after this podcast. But how was the trip to LA? How was the sights and sounds of what was a pretty cool season for the local soccer fans?
Yeah, it was a great season. It's a shame it kind of got tarnished by the ending, but I don't think anybody expected it to end in the Western Conference final in year two. So it was a great turnaround by Austin FC. Got outclassed on Sunday by LAFC, which has been the best team in the league. And pretty cool stadium. It was rocking, just like Q2 in Austin. And it sits right next door to the LA Memorial Coliseum where the USC Trojans played the night before. So it's right there in the heart of this sports mecca. And, they're black and gold too. So I felt like I was at a Raiders game. I mean, they must have had 30 of those oversized flags, in the supporter section, and it was a raucous atmosphere, and the best team won, unfortunately, for Verde fans. But good year, a lot for them to be proud of, even though they didn't put their best foot forward literally on Sunday.
If there's any Verde fans or Texas soccer fans, you still want some soccer. The Texas soccer team's still playing. The Big 12 tournament's actually in Round Rock this week. Texas is playing West Virginia in the semifinals on Wednesday or on Thursday, excuse me, at 4:30. So you can head on up to that if you really want some more soccer. You didn't like the way the Austin FC season ended. You can go root in the Longhorns. But Cedric was also on the road. And I think that's the most pertinent topic to this podcast, webcast, whatever you want to call this. But Sed went to Indianapolis to see one Sam Ehlinger make his first career NFL start. The Colts lost, but Sam, he held his own. He didn't look bad. He looked like he belonged in the league. As Sed wrote in a column that was in the newspaper today on Tuesday. Sed, why don't you kind of tell us what you saw in Indy? You got to talk to Sam a little bit, talk to his family. What was the sights and sounds, and what did you come away thinking about Sam and maybe his NFL future?
I really think the fans like Sam Ehlinger and they hate Frank Reich. They booed him lustily. They thought he was conservative because he didn't go for it on fourth and inches. Decided on field goals and down at the goal line where he's notorious for going for it. He kicked the field goal, and it kind of came back to bite them. And Sam played pretty well. Sam was 17 of 23, 201 yards. He did have a fumble in the third quarter. He said it was just a stupid blunder. It happened, and but he looked like he's supposed to be there. Now, is he Matt Ryan? In Matt Ryan's prime? No, he's not. Matt Ryan's a Hall of Famer, but he's right now is a better option than Matt Ryan behind that beat up offensive line. And so I think he made some plays. He was comfortable. His teammates in the locker room, like Ryan Kelly, the offensive lineman, goes, "He's the leader. He's not. This is not too big for him." And so when you have the support of the head coach and the veteran leadership in the locker room, you have a chance to be successful. And um, they're a beaten up team, but they have a nice chance to win a couple of games. Hopefully, they give Sam the rest of the season to show his worth. I was able to talk to his mom before the trip and hung out with her and her fiance at the airport in Austin. Good people, and as for the Ellinger family, it's time to have some good news. And they've been through the ringer with the loss of Jake, with the loss of her husband Ross, and so this is good news. And Sam is living his dream. He just got married, and yeah, it's all good right now. And I really enjoyed the trip. Got a little sick out there. Enjoyed the trip, and really enjoyed writing this column.
You go to St. Elmo's?
Couldn't get in.
Oh man,
Couldn't get
best
in.
shrimp
Just
cocktail in the world.
just a nightmare.
Hmm.
Just a nightmare. I know Curran, Jenna's fiance, said they were trying to get in, and the earliest they had was 9:30 p.m.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, Danny, what did you do besides trick or treating?
The good news is, said you can tell a story, but Sam recognized you and didn't boo you, so that was good that the local kid remembered remembered us
I asked
local
him a
reporters.
question. I go, Sam, the veterans really believe in you, and your coach does too. And how does that make you feel? And he looked. I was on the second row, and he looked. He goes, "Good to see you, man." And I was like, "Hey, it's good to be seen." So, it's always fun to see one of the guys we cover, and and especially the ones that made plays, in college, and when they see us, I think 9 times out of 10 they're glad to see us away from UT. And I'm not saying that's an indictment on the school, but Sam was genuinely glad to see me, and I'm like, good, good, because I'm a columnist. You never know.
To answer your question, Kirk, I took care of a sick child all week. It was all weekend. It was a fun way to spend the bye week. But we're back to work, and Texas is back to work. We got to talk to Steve Sarkisian. Well, at least me and Cedric. Kirk, you were back traveling back from LA, but and some of the players on Monday, Texas, which is now 5-3, 3-2, coming out the bye. They're going to travel this week to Kansas State, which is 6-2, 4-1. Kansas State's sole possession of second place in the Big 12 standings. Texas is tied with Oklahoma State and Baylor for third. That game on Saturday will be at 6 p.m. on FS1. I'm not happy about the 6 p.m. kickoff because that means a long trip home from Manhattan to our hotel in Kansas State or in Kansas City afterwards. But no one cares about my problems. They care more about this football game. So we'll start there. Said, you're a guy who likes to go to Vegas. You've been known to gamble every once in a while. I don't know how big into the sports betting you are, but you've been known to play some games of chance. So I'm going to start here. 2 weeks ago, Texas went to Oklahoma State, lost 41-34. Last week, Oklahoma State played Kansas State and lost 48-0. So please tell me how Vegas has Texas favored in this game, because just doing the math, and I know you're not supposed to do the A beat C, should beat C, but how is Texas favored against a team that just beat the team that just beat Texas?
I don't know. Vegas seems to always be right, but I wonder if there's a crackhead that picked up a shift this week in Vegas. I don't get it. This team they haven't done it on the road yet. And maybe people hate Will Howard. I don't know. What I saw, and I watched the K-State Oklahoma State game, is I saw domination on both sides of the ball. I saw Spencer Sanders rushed and harried, and he couldn't get going. I saw Deuce Vaughn running wild on a pretty good Oklahoma State defense. I don't know. And I'm not a huge sports better, but if I was betting money on games this weekend and I had to bet this one, I'm taking the team at home. I just would be.
It's not a great team in the league. We know that. I mean, well, maybe TCU is. They've been the only real consistent team, and they
Oh,
didn't
there's
play
another
great.
thing, Doc.
Yeah, they didn't play great against
This
West
this
Virginia.
K-State team had them dead to rights in Fort Worth.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's Will Howard is the backup, and I'm betting they're counting on him playing again, and so he has less experience. And I do know Chris Kleiman's trying to redshirt him, and he's had 2 games, so you get 4, and you can save your redshirt season. So I don't know. Maybe there's more Texas money, and they're trying to get more into the K State pockets and give them more incentive to bet. Uh,
That's a
I
good
don't know.
point.
It's just like, how do you explain Oklahoma State these last 2 weeks? And how do you explain Texas playing Alabama toe to toe and then, embarrassing themselves in the second half against Texas Tech and second half against Oklahoma State? It's just, Oklahoma seems to have found itself. Baylor seemed to have found itself, but, they lost to BYU, which is, just okay. So I don't know. Don't you guys feel like, I don't know, every game's almost a coin flip, and TCU, God, they've been behind by huge numbers. What did they trail K State? Wasn't it 18 points, guys?
28-10.
Yeah. And come back and win. And that, I like Chris Kleiman, great defensive team. They're like +9 in turnover margin, and they're 11th in the nation in rushing and 112th in passing. So
They're decent.
that looks like the blueprint to beat them is that don't let Deuce Vaughn go crazy, because he's about to rush for 1,000 yards third year in a row, and I would assume they would want Will Howard to throw 50 times if he indeed starts. What do you make of it, Danny?
That's why I don't gamble.
Me too.
Yeah, I barely have enough money as it is. I don't need to be burning the little extra money I have on these picks. I mean, you can look at my pick'em record, which I'm actually doing decent this year, but decent is still would be lighting money on fire in Vegas. So I don't know why the line's that way. I don't think Texas has done anything to be favored, especially with its road record and the fact that Kansas State's coming off that big win. I don't know, maybe Texas is getting a little bit of a bump because they're rested and they had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. And, Kansas State just, probably is a little bit emotionally spent from last week. Or they may be really confident. Who knows? But that line did surprise me. I'd figured Kansas State would be favored at home, especially with how they've been playing. But yeah, whatever the cliche is, that's why you play the game. We'll find out on Saturday night. Unfortunately, a little too late on Saturday night for my taste, but it is what it is. We mentioned him a couple times, but Deuce Vaughn, the Round Rock kid, great running back at Kansas State, has put together a great career. I assume most of us think he's going to be in the NFL next year, but spectacular 3-year run at Kansas State. But he's not going to be the only good running back in this game. Bijan Robinson for Texas actually leads the conference in rushing at 115 yards per game. Deuce is just under that. I think he's just under 113. And then Roschon Johnson, he's not getting the numbers that Bijan's getting, but last year ran for almost 180 yards against Kansas State. They had over 100 yards the year before when Texas went up to Kansas State and kind of stomped the Wildcats, which, going back to our last topic, maybe why Texas is favored is because they've kind of owned the Wildcats recently in this series. But we're going to do a take your pick. We have 3 running backs: Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson, Deuce Vaughn. You get one. Who are you taking? Who's the best running back in this game? All 3 are going to be fun to watch. That's what I'm looking forward to watching. But who are you taking? We'll start with Kirk. You can have the number 1 pick.
Well, if I'm taking somebody for the duration for the year, I'm taking Bijan Robinson. If I'm taking somebody for one game, I'd probably take Deuce Vaughn, because one, he's so electric and he is the focal point, of the K-State offense. Like you said, he's, bordering on 3 1,000-yard games. It's like, he's got 902 yards. I think Bijan's he got 962, something like that. So their stats are pretty even. But the thing is, Deuce will carry the load, whereas, Bijan has Roschon, backing him up. So you would think Deuce would get more carries, and they're probably going to force feed Deuce Vaughn the ball. And, this guy's Darren Sproles light, or maybe Darren Sproles heavy, because, I just can't say enough good things about how good this kid is. So, but for one game, I might take Deuce, and you got to figure they're going to use Quinn Ewers a lot to supplement the running game with Bijan and Roschon.
Said, do you want to put 26 disclaimers on your pick, or do you just want to go ahead and pick
what he does?
One of those guys.
He cover. I thought he was gonna go, and if it's a guy, if I had a daughter, then I wanted her to date someone, it would be Roschon, because he's just such a great person, and he's very smart and he's very bright.
Cover the waterfront.
Covers every base. Thank God you didn't ask for his give him 10 choices. He'd still be talking. Bijan Robinson's the best running back in the country. Because I'm taking. He can catch the ball. He's great in short yardage. He's a great pass blocker. He's just as electric. He can take it the distance, 50 yards. I'll take a good big running back over a good little one all day long, because I think he's more durable. So I'll take Bijan.
Yeah, if I have the 3rd pick and Roschon Johnson's going to fall to me, I'm not going to complain. I mean, he doesn't get the run, obviously, because Bijan is such an incredible back, but he's been quite steady in that number 2 role. Texas obviously trusts him late. And in this Kansas State series, he's been really good. 2 years ago in 2020 up in Manhattan, 14 rushes, 142 yards, 3 touchdowns. Last year when Bijan was out, and a lot of this was out of the Wildcat, but 31 rushes, 179 yards and 1 touchdown. And Texas snapped that losing streak, and that's a lot because of the way that Roschon was playing. So he's played well against the Wildcats. Obviously, you can't hear enough about his leadership and just what he means to this team off the field, but on the field, he's a pretty good back. And I think all of us agree Texas is going to be sending 2 running backs to the league next year. Both these gentlemen are going to get drafted. All 3 of these guys who are going to play in this game are going to get drafted this year. And as local reporters, we obviously have gotten to know Bijan and Roschon pretty well over the last couple of years. And Deuce is a local kid, so I think he's been on the On Second Thought podcast at one point in the past couple of years. So 3 guys to root for if you're a local football fan, and I'm going to look forward to seeing the way that all 3 of them play, because all 3 of them are going to get some touches. I feel pretty safe. I haven't seen the game plan for either team, but I feel pretty safe with that bet. Even though I just said I'm not good at betting, but I'll bet that.
That's 40 touches between 3 guys.
Yeah,
easily.
It's gonna be fun. If you love a ground game, tune in to FS1 on Saturday night. Let's talk quarterback. Even though we just talked about running backs, let's talk about quarterbacks. There's a little question mark about who Kansas State's going to start. Obviously, Adrian Martinez got Kansas State off to their good start this season, the transfer from Nebraska, but he was hurt last couple of games. Will Howard last year led the way in that the stomping of Oklahoma State. So we're not going to pick who the starting quarterback is, but if you're the defensive coordinator at Texas, Seth, we'll start with you. Who do you not want to see? Do you not want to see Adrian Martinez back there? Do you not want to see Will Howard, who's the hot hand?
Adrian Martinez, when healthy, is scary good. I mean, he can move. I mean, he's got wiggle. He can chunk it a little bit, more multidimensional. And we know that over the last few years, thing that gives Texas the most trouble is a mobile quarterback, a guy who can move, a guy who can be elusive. So they much rather face Will Howard. And Will Howard can move a little bit, but I think they much rather face him. But Adrian Martinez, I really wonder. I was like, I don't think they would purposefully sit Adrian against Oklahoma State, which is a title contender. So he must really be banged up. But if he's going and he's healthy, Texas is going to have some problems with him.
Yeah, he's a veteran. I mean, he's got 9 rushing touchdowns. That's a pretty high number for a quarterback. And as you say, he's a veteran. He had 0 interceptions this year. So he's a very mature quarterback. He threw 10 last year when he was with Nebraska. So, yeah, I think they would rather see the younger guy. I think he's a junior, I believe, but hadn't started that many games. So, but he'll have a lot of confidence. But yeah, I think you'd like to avoid Adrian Martinez. But coming to K-State from Nebraska, he had some of these big games circled. He's itching to get in this game.
Let's move on. Last topic about this Texas game. Steve on it as press conference on Monday spent some time talking about the freshmen and just their development, all that stuff. So we're going to look at this freshman class. We're going to exclude the usual suspects. I don't want to hear Kelvin Banks because obviously he's done a spectacular job on the offensive line. Even though Quinn is technically a freshman, a redshirt freshman, we don't need to talk about him. But of the freshmen on the Texas roster, which ones do you want to see step up over these last 4 games of the regular season? Who kind of needs to make that, positive step forward to not only contribute to this team this season, but also give a lot of confidence to the fans and the coaching staff about what's next, what's down the line? Who do you want to see step up out of this freshman class? Kirk, we'll start with you.
Well, I like Jalen Gilbo. I mean, I think playing that spur position, he's been very impactful. He's got 2 passes broken up, 4 quarterback hurries, and has 19 tackles for the season, and is a good blitzer too. So I'm not sure what all he said about replacing Anthony Cook if Cook can't go, and I can't imagine he'd be ready to go from that broken arm that quick. So that secondary's been beleaguered. They've been beat up a little bit. Austin Jordan's the other freshman, but I think Gilbo's kind of at the forefront there in that secondary as far as a young player, and I look for him to just keep growing, keep progressing. So he has a much better sophomore year, but I like the way he plays.
Yeah, I like him too. I saw Brennan Thompson get a little bit of run in Stillwater and came in it wasn't garbage time. He came in and I think he moved the chains. And excuse me, I think they could use a spark from another wideout. They've got some good weapons out there, but they don't have that little Devin Duvernay type, that little scat guy, little guy that can make the first guy miss and go 15 or 20 yards. I'd like to see them incorporate him, if anything, just for some go routes. I know it's a stacked receiver room, but remember Danny, he came in. I go, Daniel, was that Brennan Thompson? They just moved the chains, and he looked like he'd been playing all year, but he hadn't been. So um, that shows some confidence in him, and I'm wondering if they're going to have a package for the youngster from Spearman.
I think at one time they had Brennan lined out to the outside to Quinn's right, and Xavier was in the slot next to him. And
That's scary.
I think I was like, oh boy, we're about to get a track meet here. That did not look fun to defend. But yeah, Brennan did have a nice play that moved the chains of that game. I'm actually gonna pick a different receiver, Savion Red. We've heard a lot about him and just kind of his skill set. Texas needs that third receiver to step up, and whether it's Brennan Thompson, whether it's Savion Red, someone aside from Xavier Worthy and Jordan Whittington in that receiving group needs to step up. Obviously Jatavian Sanders is a great target at the tight end position, but I would like to see one of these freshman receivers step up. And Steve did give some love to Jaden Blue, the freshman running back. I don't know if there's carries available for him to make an impact, just because of what Bijan and Roshan are doing, and they feel pretty comfortable with that 1-2 punch. And Jonathan Brooks is also on the team, but it'd be nice to maybe, if there's a blowout or some opportunities to get him on the field, just kind of see what he can do, because he was a pretty touted 4-star prospect coming out of I believe it was Klein Kane High School this past recruiting cycle. But let's move on. A lot of activities on campus. If you are not making the trip to Manhattan, the Orange-White World Series starts over at Dish Falk Field on Thursday. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday deal. If you're a baseball fan and want to get some baseball in this weekend, we mentioned the soccer match that is start on Thursday, the Big 12 tournament semifinals, Texas versus West Virginia. The volleyball team is at TCU on Wednesday, number one again after slipping to number two, beat up on Texas Tech. Nebraska lost, so Texas is back in the number one slot. If you want to go back and read, Sed had a column out of that match that I believe ran on Friday, and I had a game story from that match as well. The volleyball team is off this weekend. We'll be back in action next Wednesday. The women's basketball team, they are playing Wayland Baptist in their final exhibition game. That will be on Friday at 7 o'clock. Men's basketball team, season opener on Monday. I know Kirk and Sed are probably looking forward to that. And then finally, swimming and diving, kind of doing a cool thing this weekend. They are actually doing a dual meet with Virginia, but they are combining. It's going to be the men and women combined versus the combined Virginia men and women. So those are two stacked programs. We're kind of doing something different. Eddie Reese mentioned this may be the first time they've ever done that anywhere in the country. So that's kind of a cool thing. If you are into swimming and diving, head onto campus to see that this weekend. That's enough teases about the Texas athletic program. Let's talk about the On Second Thought podcast. Let's give a little tease about what's going to come out on Thursday.
I don't know. We got to get Sed's voice back. He's kind of been under the weather. So are you going to be good to go on Thursday's podcast?
We'll find out, big guy. I like playing hurt. So hopefully the voice will be back. And if not, you just might have to go solo and might get Daniel Davis. He's more than capable of handling a podcast, as we've witnessed over these last few weeks.
I hope you get to feeling better. And Danny, I assume you got our credentials for Manhattan, I guess. So looking forward to that wonderful drive over from Kansas City.
Which drive are you looking more forward to? The drive to Manhattan or the drive back at about midnight?
Well, if we get out of there at midnight and Kirk doesn't want to write a Pulitzer Prize winning column after the game, and we can actually leave the press box at midnight, I'll be happy. I'm just worried about us getting out of there at like 1:30 and then having to drive the 2 hours back, and then our flight I think is like at 8:30 in the morning. So we may not even sleep on Saturday night, Sunday morning. I'm gonna be running on empty, but that's just part of the game. Once again, nobody at home cares, so that's
what we signed up
part
for.
of the deal.
Just get
Could be the last
it
trip to
online.
K-State.
Get it
It'll
in the
be,
paper. That's
it'll
all
be
they
the
care
last trip
about.
to K-State and Kansas for us three this
Worst
year, right?
worst trip in the Big 12. People in Manhattan are fine people. I always love it when we actually get there, but it's just that trip to there and back that is less than desirable. But it is
Danny,
what it is.
somebody asked me at the airport in Austin, what's the worst road trip? And I go, Manhattan, Kansas. And the guy goes, what about West Virginia? And I looked at him, I go, what about Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
You get to stay in Pittsburgh, which is great.
To eat at Mike Ditka's.
Oh man. So yeah, we don't stay in Morgantown. And when Morgantown's not as far from Pittsburgh as the Little Apple is from
Oh, it's like an
KC.
hour, a little over an hour. You're right.
Not a bad trip, but I guess in next couple of years we can debate what is the worst trip in the SEC. But that's a conversation for 2024, 2025, whenever that deal finally gets done and this nightmare is over. But that's gonna do it for us. As always, we appreciate y'all watching on YouTube, listening to it on wherever you get your podcast, checking us out on Facebook. Check out statesman.com throughout the week for various content as we get you ready for the Texas-Kansas State game. We'll be back next week to talk about what should be a matchup against what should be an undefeated TCU team, and whatever Texas's record is at the time. If Texas wins this weekend, they'll, of course, be ranked next week, and it'll be a pretty awesome matchup. If Texas loses, we may have a couple other things to write about, but we'll find out on Saturday what exactly we're looking at. But we appreciate you tuning in. As always, I'm kind of stumbling on my exit here, but so I'm just going to close it out. Danny Davis, the American-Statesman, Cedric Golden, Kirk Bohls. Appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all next week.
See ya.